this thing on. Hello everyone, welcome to another live stream, live coding episode with me, Matt Groves, here on Twitch. I am not muted, so that is so far so good. This episode is number 26. Yeah, okay, so we're going to do some windowing functions wrap-up. I actually did a first draft of the content based on the stuff that I worked on in the last stream. And so we'll take a look at that. And I've already solicited some feedback and received that feedback from a coworker, from a team member. So I might take some of that into account today. Shouldn't be too big of a deal to get that wrapped up. Although I might not finish it all in the stream today. There's a couple things. They're minor things, but I need to probably just, it's not going to be very interesting to stream that. So we'll work on that, some windowing functions wrap up. Also, if you remember a few streams back, I was working on user-defined functions, and I had a bunch of questions because I did not yet have access to the documentation. So I still have those questions. I wrote them down in a notepad, and we'll try to answer those questions today because now the docs are totally public. So we'll take a look at that. And then what I thought I would do today is have a little bit of fun and update the Twitch bot a little bit. Update Matt's Twitch bot. It's running in the background right now. It's not doing that much. I thought I'd make it a little bit more helpful. And we'll see. I have some ideas for that, but we'll see how that goes. And then, of course, any questions you have along the way, please ask, because this is the motto. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. I really believe that. If you're a beginner, if you're an expert, whatever you think the question is, if you think it's stupid, it's not, ask it anyway, and I'll do my best to answer it. All right, what else? I am part of Team Live Coders. This is a team, a Twitch team. If you go to twitch.tv/livecoders, you'll see the list of us here. There's 66 of us right now on the team. Right now it's just Relevant Jesse and myself who are streaming. It looks like Relevant Jesse is doing some C# and WinForms stuff, although I believe we rated Relevant Jesse last time, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll, at the end of 2 hours, we'll see who is ready to be rated, and we'll find someone to go and join. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we rated Relevant Jesse. Anyway, if you're interested in learning more about live coding, following live coders, this is a great place to start on Twitch. twitch.tv/team/livecoders. Lots of different time zones, lots of different topics. You're going to find someone there definitely to check out. All right, what else? Awesome Developers streaming list. Oh, a little word wrap there. This is basically a big text file of awesome developers who are streaming. And the great thing about this is you can just do a Control F to look for topics that you like, because everyone's tagged with their topics of choice. So if you're looking for something like, I don't know, who's doing stuff with Python? All right, we can see right in the A's there, we've got 3 people who are streaming about maybe Python in this case for Armin. Maybe Python, he says. But if you're interested in Python, you can go check that out. So for my stream, we'll just bring myself up here. Matt Groves. I do a lot of backend stuff, databases, Couchbase, of course, my employer, SQL, NoSQL, SQL++, and then to code against the backend, I often use .NET, C#, ASP.NET, and from time to time we'll do fun stuff. Recently, I started a new gaming stream about point-and-click adventure games, and I'm going through the whole. My goal is to go through the whole Sierra catalog. So that's not normally, that's just sort of a when I can get to it stream. But twice a week I stream about this kind of stuff here, backend stuff, databases, all things backend and database. Although I dipped into the front end last stream, we did some visualization with JavaScript. So that's just part of it. I don't claim to be anything close to a JavaScript expert. I don't really do much JavaScript front end development in my current role, but I will dip into that, and I've done it in the past. So that's what I do. Anyway, go to github/bnb/awesome developer streams and find yourself an awesome developer. Check out their channel. Or if you are an awesome developer in streaming, add yourself to this list. It hasn't been updated in 19 days. So this is probably a pretty big list at this point. Lots of choices on there. Okay, what else? Yes, down here at the bottom of the screen, you can see a link to bit.ly/GrovesTube. This will take you to all the YouTube videos that I've exported from Twitch of past episodes. You can go check those out, see the previous topics, and see highlight clips and whatnot. bit.ly/GrovesTube. So all my videos get saved to Twitch for some period of time, but I export them to YouTube for the long run. All right, what else? TwitchBot is on. I've got TwitchBot running right now. All it does is store chat messages in a database. We might work on this today, add some more features, but I will keep this instance of TwitchBot running. I hope this will work. We'll keep this instance of TwitchBot running. So while I'm working on it, while you're chatting, all that stuff will still be saved, but we can work on features in parallel. I'll show you a little bit how that works. Okay, Couchbase Server. So since the last stream, Couchbase Server 6.5 beta has actually been released. And, I don't spend this is not a channel where I'm going to just talk about Couchbase all the time. This is not a marketing channel per se, but I do want to point out this is kind of a big deal because I've been working on 6.5 content. 6.5 contains a lot of amazing features. And right now it's a pre-release version. This is a beta version. This is not recommended for production. This is just to get Couchbase Server out there for feedback, to get people to start using it, to test it out and give us their feedback, give us their problems, their issues, what they like, what they don't like. But let's just check out some of these new features. This is a really major release. So you're going to see a lot of these. If you're looking at Couchbase notes and documentation, you're going to see a lot of these cautions because this is a pre-release version. And, we want to make that very clear that don't put this in production. A lot of these features are preview only. Use them at your own risk. And I wouldn't be surprised if we had customers who go ahead and start putting this into production or whoever, but it is not something that's supported. A lot of this stuff is not supported. And in fact, the whole beta version is not supported in production. But there is something in there called developer preview mode, which will be in the 6.5 release as well. And this is developer preview. It's basically a feature flag. It's a way for us to say, if you want to try out this stuff, go ahead, but you have to put it into developer preview mode to do that. And when you do that, you're going to see a big warning message at the top saying this is not supported in production. But it is a way for us to get it out there for people to use and try out this new stuff, but that you have to opt into that. In the beta version, you're automatically opt in. In the production version, it will likely be the case that you're not opt into it. So anything that's a developer preview feature is going to be something you have to opt into. All right, I like to put this sort of marketing talk on here, but the major features releasing here is the big one here, in my opinion. Distributed ACID transactions. So one of the complaints against NoSQL databases is that because of their distributed nature, transactions are typically not something that you have with NoSQL databases. Now, that is becoming not the case anymore. So there are few NoSQL databases out there that have ACID transactions and are distributed. That is a tough nut to crack, though. And there are some trade-offs involved. So there are some features that had to be built into Couchbase that are kind of behind the scenes to support ACID transactions. But now we have them. And the great thing about this, and you can check more information about this, and we might do a future stream on this. In fact, I can almost guarantee we'll do a future stream on this because this is something I really want to get in there and try out and play with. But you have to opt into transaction. And the idea here is that this is something that we've always kind of talked about, is that when you model your data in a document database, hopefully you're modeling it in such a way where it's not as fragmented as a relational database. And that's one of the main reasons you need ACID with a relational database, because the data is very fragmented, it's very spread out, it's all split up, it's all shredded apart. And a lot of times, if you have a use case that works well for NoSQL document databases, you don't really need to split the data up that much. You can aggregate it up into documents. However, there's still a percentage of use cases where ACID transactions are either necessary or very nice to have. So I'm finally super glad to say that we have ACID transactions. So if this is one of the things that's keeping you from checking out NoSQL, check that box right now. Try it out. You have transactions, and you get to play with those in Couchbase 6.5. We've got alpha releases. So these are all the official SDKs, and they're all getting updates for the new version of Couchbase. Nothing really major to report here. There's some new features we can check out, but one thing we've added is a Scala SDK. So if you work with Scala, or you want to try Scala, I don't know if it's still in alpha, but yeah, these are all alpha releases. So you can try out the Scala with Couchbase. Okay, some new stuff to the query. So we talked about window function. We're going to talk about that today. Common table expression, we'll talk about that today. Query and search, that was kind of already in 6, I think, but that's in there as well. Optimizer, we've talked about that already. Or no, sorry, not the optimizer, but the index advisor. So the cost-based optimizer, I haven't actually done anything with that. User-defined functions, we've looked at that already. This is, if you notice, these are all have developer preview on them. So these are features that you have to opt into, even in the full production version of 6.5, which is not out yet, but it will be. But these are all things that are preview features. Analytics added window functions and scanning consistency and compression. Venting, they now have a better curl, which I think I've shown before. And you can also, there's also some other things that have added to venting to make them more generally useful. So this is interesting. They've actually put a number on this. So typically in the past we've said, all right, go easy on the number of buckets. But now we have made some updates to support up to 30 in a single cluster. So that can give you some more capabilities with microservices and multi-tenancy and things like that. But even more importantly, collections. And this is something that is been kind of missing from Couchbase since the beginning. But it's a more logical separation of data within a bucket. So this is also perfect for multi-tenancy and migration and just a way to organize your data that's not dependent on buckets, but which buckets have a bunch of other overhead. The collections don't. And there's also a thing called a scope in there as well. Some XDCR stuff. And then we've got some improved backup recovery features and some more security stuff. So there's node-to-node encryption. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but for some organizations, that's kind of a thing. LDAP group support is pretty cool. I think someone had maybe asked me about that in the chat at some point in the past. So yeah, LDAP group support is there. Were we talking about LDAP? I don't remember. So yeah, there you go. So anyway, check out all that. I'll post the link right here. You'll see it pop up in the chat. What's new in 6.5 beta? Totally free to download. We want you to download it. Go crazy with it. Give us your feedback. Don't use it in production, but check it out. See what you think. And yeah. So what I want to look at today is some of the windowing stuff that I had worked on. So I'm going to bring up the. I should have done this before I started, but I'm going to bring up Visual Studio Code in the tutorials contrib, and I was working on user profiles. So put Visual Studio Code here. Hey, it's Calvin Allen. How are you, sir? Thanks for dropping in. All right, so window functions. So this is the tutorial that I'd written for window functions, and you can see this is kind of the graphic that I've done. Howdy oh, you're in a retro. Okay. You shouldn't, come on, man. You got to focus on that retro. Put me on mute at least. Retros are important. Retrospective is what he's referring to. If anyone else is not sure what he means, he doesn't mean retro games or retro rockets. He means retrospective, which is part of many Agile implementations. A retrospective. It's more under the communications category there. Very important. Okay, so this is tutorial, and just kind of what we're showing here is the end product, the end result, this visualization that I used. Not a beautiful visualization, but visualization isn't the point of this tutorial. So we're going to set it up. with some data, and I show what the data looks like, and you can see it's kind of what we expect it to be. It's just an event type that a user did at a certain timestamp. The different event types are like product added to cart, product viewed, and profile updated. And you could have a lot more events, that correspond to something that your user did in your system. Okay, and then I do a quick intro to window functions, just a really simple blurb on it, and I basically just link to the full documentation to show more about that, but I kind of piece together the query. And then common table expressions, same sort of thing. I just show the query that I worked on, but mainly point to the documentation. And then we put it all together at the end to query the user events, show what the end result looks like here. And this is just the data that's going to be fed directly into the JavaScript UI. And there's the end result. Summary is, again, just pointing people to the documentation and back to the sort of parent tutorial. So the feedback that I received on this from my coworker is a couple important things. So one is, let me get to it here. Give me some feedback in Slack. Yes, okay, so in the Java version of the tutorial, which is my coworker worked on the Java version, so I have created date stored as a string here, stored as the ISO 8601 or whatever string. In his tutorial, he stored it as a number. Talked about this briefly, why a long might be a more efficient way to store data, but however, I liked the created date, and that's just sort of the default behavior in .NET and C#. However, his feedback is, why don't you show an example of this CTE down here that uses, the string is fine, but show an example that also uses the numeric version of it. So I think that's probably fair. Since this is kind of meant to go with both the .NET and Java, probably should do that. I don't think it's going to be a big deal, because if you notice, these functions like date add str and date part str and date trunc str, those are all string, and their counterparts for the number are just also named like date add timestamp or something like that. So they're relatively easy to do that. The other feedback he had that I thought was useful and is worth addressing is, let's see. Just sort of the title. So querying user events with window functions. It's an okay title, but I think it might be more worthwhile to point out that this has to do with time series data. This is one way to deal with time series in a document database. I mean, Couchbase is not, strictly speaking, a writ large time series database. However, with the window functions, you can certainly do a lot of the same things that you could do with a time series, again, in capital letters database, as we're showing in this example here. And the fact that window functions are added to the analytics part of Couchbase just makes that case even stronger. But so I think that's worthwhile. And there was one more thing I thought that he said that I thought was a really good feedback. Oh, yes. So this data here, and I'm going to have to double check this, but as I did with another mini tutorial, I actually created a JSON dataset that you could load optionally ahead of time. However, in my .NET sample, I have an endpoint that generates data for you, randomly generates data for you, that may not be in the Java tutorial. So I need to double check that I call that out in the .NET parent tutorial. And two, I may consider just creating a JSON file there. So there's really three things we do to get this done. So we're going to retitle it to use time series. That's probably a keyword that people we were searching for, like Couchbase time series. So this would be a good place for them to land in that search. Second is show query using timestamp long instead of string. Well, in addition to, string. And third is check.net for sample data generation. Consider adding a sample data set. This stuff shouldn't take that long for us to do. I expect to have this, I'm always bad at estimation, but I think we can get this done in 40 minutes and knock this out. Okay, so first off, let's do some retitling here. And he had a suggestion, actually, for retitling it. Using Couchbase as a time series with window functions. So, using Couchbase as time series with window functions. That's a little awkward. Using Couchbase, using Couchbase as time series. I mean, it gets the keywords in there, but it just kind of reads awkwardly. Maybe using Couchbase with time series data with window functions. That's a lot of widths. Maybe time series data in Couchbase with window functions. That's pretty good because it puts time series right at the beginning. I reduce the number of widths, so the data is in Couchbase, and we're going to query it with window functions. So maybe querying time series data in Couchbase with window functions. I like that. Okay. And then up here in this parent, window functions. Okay, I'm just going to put that, just change the title there, and change the title there of the link. Okay, that's good. Okay, one down. Show query using timestamp long addition string, check.net for sample generation. Okay, so let's just see if I talk about any sort of, let me bring up the project here. It is user profile example. And I believe it is generate. Yeah, I don't call that out. I don't call that out here. So it's probably better if I generate it. Or if I, create a JSON file and just add that to here. So while we're at it, why don't I store in these user events, created date, and then call this timestamp. So I'll create it side by side, basically. What is this? Insert async. Okay. So there's two places here where I'm doing that, which is fine. So what I want is, so date equals, so I get this random date here, and I'm going to store it just as it is. If I serialize a date time object to Couchbase in .NET, it stores it as a string. So if I want to store it as a timestamp, I can instead, let me think about this. Because storing it twice really makes sense? Well, I think I'm just going to do it like this. User events dot create a date timestamp equals date dot to what is it? To what am I looking for here? Not double. To file time? To binary? How do we take a date time into date time into Unix time, like Unix timestamp, epoch, whatever you call it. Yo, motherboard. Let's go Stack Overflow first. You get a Unix timestamp C# using UTC now and subtracting the epoch. Oh, that seems kind of lame. Okay, here we go. As of .NET 4.6, there's a date time offset to Unix time seconds. Is that going to be in .NET Core? From Unix time milliseconds. There's a from. Oh, wait, hang on. There's an instance method. Instance method, okay. Instance of date time offset. Beware the time zone. Ugh, don't even get me started on that nonsense. To get the current timestamp, UTC now. So UTC, 2 Unix timestamps. Okay, so I'll say date dot to UTC to universal time dot. See, this is 4.6, and we're in core. Let's see, you can use ticks. Ticks, will that work? Is it the same thing? That might be fine. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here to my database, and let's just delete everything in user profile. Yes, I know it's going to delete everything. That's fine. Totally fine. It's all just generated anyway. And make sure I have my credentials set up properly. I do. Yeah. Can't run an output class. And I'm going to do populates. Okay, and if I go back over to here, there should be some interesting data in here. No events, huh? There's definitely data in there, right? Why isn't it showing any data? Oh, I've got some limit offset nonsense in here. Probably left over from earlier. Limit, okay. Just give me like 10, I don't care. Okay, and I want to do where meta.id like event. Just want to see that what's in there makes sense. Okay, it's not storing it. Why is that? Probably because in this repository, I'm not actually storing it. Okay, so again, I'll go back and drop all this data. Yes, I know. Run this again. Populates. And now we should have, okay, look at that. So then let's just double check to make sure this looks okay. So we'll convert Unix timestamp and just pop this in. Invalid date. Is that like because it's milliseconds? If I take that off, it doesn't like any of it. Convert. Okay, so I think it's definitely milliseconds. Still doesn't seem right. Okay, so I don't think it is ticks. Ticks per second. Total seconds. Do I not want ticks? Why am I getting ticks? What are ticks anyway? I think I just skipped ahead here too far. Oh. Okay. Okay, I don't know if I want to go through the ticks. Let me just try this. Something in the .NET Core. Okay, I want to convert Unix timestamp to date time and vice versa. So the vice versa is what I'm interested in. I mean, I figured there'd be a helper function for this built in. .NET 4.6, fine. I mean, I could go through all the math, but I'm trying to find a, I think maybe this is what I want. Where was it? Event generator, like this. Something like this. Is that going to work? I mean, it still seems kind of wordy, but worth a shot. Clear out the data again. Close that one. Run this. No, run this. Generates. No, not generate. Populates. Okay. Buckets. Documents. User profile. Okay. And then I can take this timestamp and let's try here to see what this converts to. 8/13/2009 at 5:53 a.m. That seems about right. It's UTC, but it's again, it's fine. We're not concerned about time zones too much for this demonstration because that is an insolvable problem. That is an intractable problem, time zones. So I'm going to punt on that. Save that for other tutorials. But there we go. So I've got, okay. So I've got a bunch of data here. So let's just keep populating. Although I do have another problem here I forgot about. But I think we can work around it. So I'm just going to populate a bunch of data. Just keep refreshing here. This does anywhere from like 80 to 120 users and then 80 to 120 events each, something like that. So that's a good hunk of data. All right. Okay, good. So now I've got, back in my repository, I've got this business here, this query. Okay, and I'm going to just omit that part, and we'll say event type equals 0. And what happened here? Oh, because I've got escaped quotes still. Don't have an easy way to go back and forth yet. So we'll just manually do this. What's the problem? Oh, another one. Double quotes. Okay. Okay, that gives me the results. So that's good. Let's just make a quick note of that. So over here, this is the string date version. So now I want the long date version. So instead of created dates, I'm going to use, what did I call the field? I called it, no, where was it? Created date timestamp. So I'm going to, wherever it says created date, I'm going to change that to created date timestamp. Okay, and now the problem here is that it's no longer a string. So this will probably give us garbage, yeah. So I need to go to docs.couchbase. We're going to look up the date functions. There's lots of them. Functions for dates. So in this case, we have date add string. We could go date add millis. So we'll do that. So actually, am I in milliseconds? Because those might not be milliseconds. So we can either multiply by 1,000 here or multiply by 1,000 in the C# code, something like that. Okay, and what else we got? We've got date trunk string of date trunk millis. Thoroughly modern millis. These are it's just the same statement up here and down here at the bottom. So just do that. And we have date part string. We should have date part millis. You can kind of see the pattern here. Okay, and then I can just select or just copy this to be my group by. And that should, it's not liking it. Well, with the CTE, I can get rid of all this other noise and see what is going on with this. Create a date times. It doesn't like this. Oh, because it's lowercase. Okay, and that looks okay. No, it doesn't look okay. Did I mess something up here? It might be this divided by 15. No, that doesn't make sense. Because well, these segments are all the same. That's not right. But they're split on event type, which is fine, except that why are these segments all the same? That should not be the case. There should be a lot more variety. It's Gamlor. Hi, Gamlor. Thanks for dropping in. What is this snowflake-looking thing here? Direct Relief Charity 2018? I haven't seen that before. Pretty cool. How are you doing, Gamler? We're working on some SQL stuff, some time series, window functions, reporting type stuff. Kind of already done. This is the content I've been working on. No, not this one. This one here. We're just querying some data to put some time series data in the graph. I don't know, Twitch assigns stuff to me, not bothering to fiddle with it. Well, since it's some sort of charity thing, it seems like you maybe have done some charity event or participated in some charity events, so good for you. But there you go. You get a little graphic next to your name. Anyway, this is what I'm working on, but there's a couple things that I got feedback on that I'm trying to improve, and I'm really struggling with this. So I query the dates in string format. Colleague says he stores it in long. He'd like to see the query when the dates are stored as epochs. That may be the problem. It's not actually storing as thousands. It's Codebase Alpha. Hello. Thank you for dropping in, Codebase Alpha. All right. So I think what's going on here is this is seconds. Okay. So this needs to be stored as milliseconds because we're doing millis. It's a real pain that there's kind of like two different versions of timestamps. There's the JavaScript one, which is milliseconds, and then there's the regular one, which is seconds. So we're going to start over here. Codebase Alpha, I'm doing pretty good. Not so bad. And you? So let's start over again. Oh, let's not completely start over. I want to save this. No, not to there. To here. This is the long date version, kind of. So we're going to delete from user profile. Just erase everything there. Start over. I like the warning message is nice. Frustrated with work. I'm sorry to hear that. What is the frustration at work? There's always frustration at work, but hopefully it's kind of frustration you can get some satisfaction on soon enough. Gamlore, I'm not sure how to interpret that face. But yeah, we're all frustrated with work from time to time. Otherwise, it wouldn't be work. It would be just like leisure, I guess. I don't know. Okay, we're going to run this one again because we're going to regenerate some data. I'm pretty sure that's the problem, is that I was treating it as milliseconds when it's actually seconds. Populates. Working with solution partner, I say working doesn't feel like it's working to me. What is a solution partner? Not a term that I'm super familiar with. I mean, I know what solution is, I know what partner is. But what is a solution partner? Okay, that looks way better to me. Now they got the data correct. Okay, so it looks like this. You see it's divided into these segments. Fine. Okay. So for instance, if I were to, let's see, convert Unix milliseconds. Third party contracted to implement a big project into my company. Okay. So that is August 12th at 1400. And we'll get to the next one. And this should be, which makes sense, 2015. Those look good. I'm enjoying an old ASP.NET Forms codebase today. So enjoying in quotes. You know, I spend a lot of time in ASP.NET's web forms. I assume is what you mean, the old web forms. And, you know, I spent a lot of time. My most frustrating thing was getting it to render the HTML that I wanted. That was the most frustrating thing for me. And I know they've made a lot of improvements and changes to that over the years, but I never got a chance to work with the sort of new and improved, updated ASP.NET web forms. But yeah, ASP.NET, right up my alley. I've worked in ASP Classic, ASP.NET 1, all the way up to ASP.NET, like I don't know, ASP.NET, I think ASP.NET 2, and then I switched to ASP.NET MVC and worked with MVC up to like version 5, I think. And these days, you know, I don't write a lot of code for production. I do a lot of tutorials and stuff. I do write some for production, believe it or not, but it's ASP.NET Core MVC, or whatever you call it. ASP.NET Core, just ASP.NET Core. They don't really have an ASP.NET Core Forms as far as I know, so it's ASP.NET Core. All right, so everything's looking good here. I'm happy with this query, so let's try out the whole thing. I just did the CTE part of it. I'm going to paste this in here, but this is going to be the new CTE. It goes inside here. This is the creamy nougat. It goes into CTE, and I think we're ready to go with this query. Execute, and yep, looks good to me. Order by segment, and then we can also say and e.segment between, and this will have to be timestamps at this point. So not in quotes. And I don't know, just get a really high one here. Oh wait, oh yeah, that's good. Like that. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. But I think mainly it's this part right here that I want to point out in the tutorial. So let's go back to the tutorial. And so a couple things, count table expressions. And let's make a quick, I'll make a quick note here. If you are storing dates as milliseconds instead of a string, you will need to use a different set of date functions. For example, and we'll just throw it in here. Date add millis. Yeah, I think it's probably good enough. And just for funsies, we'll put in an example. So I've got these examples here. I'm just going to take this, put it in here. Yeah. Create a date. So it's the same thing except you store dates in different formats. This is just a JSON issue, right? JSON has no date, has no data type. All right, the other thing is where's my note at? Here, right here. So I'll just say create a date instead of timestamp. No reason for that. Okay. All right. So Codebase Alpha, tell me more about the solution partner. It's a third party, you contract to implement a big project. So the idea is that they come in and implement this and then they go away and you just sort of take over maintenance and new features at that point. Because I used to be on the other end of that, I think. I used to be a consultant and I'd be the one coming in and working on solutions. Although I was never really on a complete like solution partner team. But I was on a team that consultants would come in, work on site, and it was our job to implement some project. And the thing is, we worked pretty closely with the in-house developers. It wasn't like we did it all and throw it over the wall sort of thing. So it was a more gradual thing, which I think fits the more agile. So I'm guessing the solution partner is also doing that with you, working closely with you. But if not, that could explain your frustration, right? If they're making questionable decisions and or not consulting you as a consultant should, then that could lead to frustration. All right, so we got where was I? Never did consulting. Usually sticking with a product, kind of like improving a product long term. So yeah, so I've done everything at this point. I worked on an in-house IT, like an in-house development team. We weren't making a product, but we were creating websites and reporting and stuff like that. After that, I worked for a consulting company for a short period of time, and after that, I jumped into a product company. And then after that, I jumped into another consulting company, but it was a consulting / product company. So I started out as a consultant, and I transitioned to the product team. And then now I'm at another company, another product company, but I'm not working on the product, which is a kind of weird thing. I'm a developer advocate, so I'm working on content around the product. So I've done a lot of different roles. I'm trying to work with them partners in the project to ensure success, but not having much luck. Yeah, it's the thing. It's almost never tech. That's the hard thing with projects. It's communication. It's people. It's getting on the same page. All that kind of stuff. So, yep, that's the management stuff. I've never really been super good at that. Managing people, managing projects. I've kind of done it out of necessity sometimes, but I've never been super good at it. All right, so back to my checklist. So we've got, yep. Okay, the last thing is sample data, which I've already got, thanks to this. So maybe I'll just, how much do I have in there right now? 434 documents. So let's just put some more in there. Let's put a decent sample size of data in here. A couple thousand maybe. 1,800. A few more F5s here. That'll give us enough data to work with. Yep, okay. All right, now I've got to, yep, it's people and communications. Yep, that's, yeah. People and communications. I feel like I do okay with communications and people. It's just when I get to managing people, I don't feel like I feel like you really need to have a certain skill set, like sales type skill set, and I don't really have that. But I don't know. It's good to know your strengths and weaknesses, I guess. All right, so the thing is, I need to export this data, and that's easy to do from the command line. However, I believe I have made a mistake. So let's go to this folder, modules, and we'll go to profile store. And I've got, is it assets? Is that where I want to do it? Examples. Okay. So user profile sample. Actually, what's in the user profile sample? That might be good enough. I might already have that. Oh boy, code's gonna, okay, it says okay. User event. Yeah, there's no event data in here. Okay. So I might just replace this whole JSON file, because this is a data set that has both users and events. So why would I have two different that don't match up with each other? In this case, I have users that match up with user events. So why not just replace that? I think that's a good idea. All right. However, the problem is, if I try to do an export, so I'm going to do C, program files, Couchbase, server, bin, CB export. So this is a command line tool to export data from a Couchbase bucket to JSON, to a JSON file. So JSON, and then I'm going to say cluster is localhost, and username is administrator, P is password, bucket is user profile, and what else? What else do I need? Format is list, giant array basically, and output is user profile, let's call it temp, doesn't matter. It's not going to work. Include key. What didn't it like? Oh, include key, and we'll just call that underscore ID. And yeah, so it's going to bomb out here because I'm running Couchbase inside Docker. And when I ran this Docker container, I did not specify port 8096. I did not forward port 8096. I just slipped my mind to do that. I think the Docker updates, the Docker hub could use an update, but I didn't open port 896. Therefore, I can't run CB export from outside Docker. So what I can do, I'm trying to figure out a way to actually do that, to open a port on a running Docker container, and I can't for the life of me figure out an easy way to do it. You basically have to, the way that people have been doing it on Stack Overflow is you take the Docker image as it is now and create a new image out of it, and then start a new image based on that base image, which is a huge pain in the neck to do that. Almost as huge a pain in the neck as stopping this and just starting over from scratch. So what I can do, and this is kind of a lame workaround, but I can, if I can remember the exact IT exec, and this is on DB, wait, what's the name of the container? It's DB650 beta. So Docker exec dash IT DB650 beta. If I can remember this exec slash bin slash bash. No. Okay. I always have to Google this. Docker bash exec. It's always on Stack Overflow, and I always have to Google it. Yeah. Docker exec -it db650 beta /bin /bash. Okay, so now I have a command line inside Docker container. I wanted to go to my home directory. Okay, so now I can say cb export JSON, and it's also inside the Docker container. CB export JSON, -clusters localhost, -u administrator. So inside here, I don't need to worry about port numbers because I'm local to the machine. User profile, -format is going to be lines, no, list. -output is user profile temp.json. Include key ID. Password. Huh? What password? Do I have to say sudo? No? What? I guess me. Oh, because I put dash password. Interesting. It's prompting me for the password. Okay. There we go. So now I have this user profile temp document here in the home directory, which is just /root. All right, now I can say docker copy, db 650 beta. Source path is root / user profile temp.json to here. So now what I've got is that temp file. So it's a kind of a roundabout way of going about it, but there it is. That's the new temp file, and you can see this one has user events in it, which is very nice. So I'm going to delete this old sample. And put in this new sample. And there we go. And I have basically some code that does this already. So I had 25,000. So maybe I need to. So right now, if I don't want to change the other tutorials. So 2,000. So I'm going to need to populate this a little bit more. If I want a 25,000 record sample data set. Hit F5 for a while. I mean, the idea with populate is you do this yourself, but I don't call this out in the tutorial. So it's there. I mean, you have access to the code. It's just you have to go and seek it out. It only does 100 or so at a time, 100, 120 at a time, because I don't want it to, go crazy and lock up or anything like that. It's all synchronous, so this is just for demo purposes. And there's better tools for creating fake data sets. There really are. There's a cool tool called Fake-It, which was created by Aaron Benson, who now works for Couchbase, but he created it before he worked for Couchbase, because he worked with Couchbase as his employer, and he created a tool to generate fake data like this. So we're almost halfway there. Well, we're coming up on a minute till my estimated time, so not quite going to get there. Go a few minutes over, because I got to go through the whole Docker song and dance again after I manage to refresh this enough times to get 25,000 plus documents in there. But this will be a better data set anyway, because it's user profiles and user events. 17,000. This might give me a chance to do some more cross-linking as well. I don't know, we'll see. I exited out of Docker, didn't I? But I have all those commands in my buffer, so that's good. Looks like I had another follow recently. KD Ling. KD Ling, thank you for the follow. All right, there we go. So I'm going to go into here. CB export. Actually, let's remove this one here. Okay, and then do the CB export. Okay, 25,000 documents, that's good. And then we'll just do a copy, just like I did before. And so now I should have both those in there. I'm going to delete this one. User-profile-sample. code likes to just open it. I don't want you to open such a big file. The other thing about this is it has both the timestamp and the text. Not temp. In it. So it may not be a perfect sample set, but it'll be good enough.
Bing, bada, boom.
Hey, thank you for the follow, Gamlor. Hope I'm saying that name right. Appreciate it. About wrapping up here, I'm going to switch over to working on some TwitchBot stuff here. So if databases are not your thing, hang in there. We're going to look at some TwitchBot stuff, which I know everyone loves working on TwitchBots. And you can maybe even participate. So just got to do a couple more things here. So this is in the prerequisites. I want to make sure that if you want to load data, you can. Databases are my thing. Oh, that's great, Gamler. That's awesome. What sort of database did you work with? I'm going to put it to do here to punch this up a little bit. Link to building indexes, perhaps. So I'll finish this kind of stuff up later. That's great. I was just talking the other day with my team, and I was kind of, kind of checking in, like, is this Twitch stream still something I should be doing? Is it still helpful? How am I doing with it? And it's hard to really know how effective it is at communicating stuff about Couchbase and helping developers and things like that. But it's kind of my view right now, and I could be wrong about this, so let me know if I'm wrong. But it seems like a lot of the live streams on Twitch are very much geared towards the front end, which kind of makes sense because it's a visual medium, so you want to show something interesting. And databases and back-end stuff, it's not quite as interesting to look at unless you bring in things like visualization, which is kind of front-end type stuff. It's totally fine to dabble in every once in a while. But I don't know. What do you think? Is it? Am I just wrong in saying that? Maybe I'm not looking at the right streamers. Maybe there are some streamers out there who are doing lots of interesting back-end stuff, but I don't see a lot of database-focused streams. Every once in a while people will dabble in databases, but they don't really go deep in the databases. They go deep into the front-end framework or the programming language or something like that. Like the Blazor state has changed. A show that Ed Charbonneau does. It's all about front-end, of course, because Blazor is a front-end framework, and it's really interesting to show that kind of stuff in a web page. Gamlor has worked with Usual SQL, MySQL, Microsoft SQL, H2. I'm not quite familiar with H2, SQLite, etc. And you've worked with DB4O and Versant. No kidding. A long, long time ago, I did some DB4O stuff for mobile. Long, long time ago. Are they still around? At the current company, you worked on your file sync database system. You didn't touch Couchbase, etc. yet. That's cool. So actually, it's so funny because I work for a NoSQL database right now, NoSQL database company. But long before I work here, I was starting to get into conference speaking, conference presentations. And my very first presentation I did was I believe it was at Richmond Code Camp. This was like 2007, 2008, I forget. And my topic was DB4O. So I did a presentation. It was probably terrible. If you were there, I'm sorry. But it was probably a terrible presentation on DB4O because I really didn't know what I was talking about. But I was really, really passionate about DB4O. I thought it was very cool. Codebase Alpha. Twitch streams are the only real way of imparting practical knowledge in my humble experience because you see devs solve real problems, either business ones or problems with the software itself. I find them fascinating. I think that's a good attitude to take Codebase Alpha. There are a lot of people out there who are kind of adverse, what's the right word, to video as a learning mechanism. They'd rather have a text they could scan. But I think they're both valuable. They're both valuable. Both have their place. Both text and video. So Gamlor says nope. DB4O got bought by Versant Object Database. So I think at the time, Versant did own DB4O. So they're both like DB4 was part of Versant at the time. It actually was a DB4.0 MVP, I think, for a year or something. So after a while, the DB4.0 team transitioned to the Versant Object Database. DB4.0 died. Oh, that's a shame. And Versant got bought, and there my time ended there. So you worked at Versant. Wait a second, Gambler. Do I know you? Do I know you already? Your name is sounding familiar now. DB4.0 is certainly dead. Calvin says times are a-changin'. What are you talking about, Calvin? It said in all caps, too. Gamlord, your name is sounding familiar to me. I think I might know you. Like, through the DB4.0 MVP program or something. Oh my goodness. Video gaining steam over written. Maybe, Calvin? Twitch is kind of a good combination because you got the text chat and you got the video. I guess the only thing is, like, if you wanted to copy, like, text on my video, you can't really do that right now. I don't know. I follow you on Twitter. Not sure what time I started following you. It could be DB4 related. Gambler, I swear, it sounds super familiar. Were you ever a DB4.0 MVP? Were you ever in that program? And I can't remember the name of the guy who managed that DB4.0 program. He was kind of like DB4.0 or Versant's, kind of like their developer advocate. So that was really, you maintained documentation for a while. Yeah, I swear we've crossed paths before. That's so cool. Well, it's great to reconnect with you. I really like DB4.0. I thought it was really cool. One of the cool things came out of I think it came out of DB4.0, or maybe they just used it. But DB4.0 was a Java project, but they used some sort of tool to automatically build a .NET version based on the Java version. And I forget what that project was called. That might still be around. That was pretty wild, that you would just feed in a Java project and out would come a .NET binary, that sort of thing. Or out would come .NET source code, which would then get compiled into a .NET binary. That project might still be around. Yeah, that's darn cool, Gambler. Well, yeah, so Sharpen, yep, that's what it was. Sharpen. It was created by DB4.0. See, I remember these things. Yeah, and Xamarin did use it. I remember seeing that too. For Mono Droid. I vaguely remember that as well. This is all sort of you're bringing back everything, Gambler. You're bringing back my like entire early history, like DB4.0, Xamarin, all this kind of stuff. It led me to like PostSharp, and eventually led me to getting into DA, and then Couchbase kind of brings it all together because I'm doing .NET here. I'm doing NoSQL, and writing, all that kind of stuff. So, geez, Gambler. That's really bringing back a flood of memories right now. Really giving the nostalgia. All right, so I gotta punch up this document a little more, but I'm going to AFK for a minute too. Cool, Gambler. So I'm going to switch over now to we've got some window function stuff done. Oh, there was some things in my notes here. So I had some questions. So let's take a quick break here and look at some docs. I know people love docs, but the Couchbase 6.5 docs are out now, and I had questions about user-defined functions. So I had a question. In the syntax, it was you just create function with language, and actually I looked some of this up already, but create function. So to create a UDF, you say create function, and yes, with the language syntax. So this was really interesting because what you can do is there's two different types of user-defined functions you can create. You can create a function that uses straight-up SQL inside of it, like I was doing. You can also create a function that uses JavaScript in it, and that's where this language comes into play. They have the AST for the SQL syntax in the docs. I like that. AST. Oh, you're talking about this this diagram here? What is that called? Something sequence tree or whatever. Yeah, my brain always melts when I try to read these, but People do like them. I forget what AST stands for, but I think this is what you're referring to. This little language tree. You see that in a lot of language books as well. For whatever reason, my brain just sort of skips these. I just kind of ignore them. But I understand why they're useful. It's just sort of a spec, right? Anyway, so language is there because you could potentially specify different languages. Now, right now, it's just JavaScript and Nickel. So that's what that means. What does the inline mean? So inline function. What does inline mean? So inline is where you So inline is where you use Nickel, which I was doing. External is where you use an external language. In this case, it's just JavaScript right now. I don't know if they're going to add, if they plan to add more language support or not, but JavaScript. Because it's a JSON database, JavaScript kind of makes sense. Already have the JavaScript engine as part of the software. So that's the difference of those right now. Can I specify parameters? The answer is yes. Parameter. So, yep, absolutely specify parameters. You can see that's going on right here. So, yes. Can I do multiple statements or variables? So, with the Nickel, I'm guessing that's a no. Although you could use CTEs, I guess. That one diagram I've heard described as a train track. I don't know how accurate that is. It's as good a name as any, but it's kind of like the trolley problem. Like, do you want to switch paths here to avoid the parameter? That sort of thing. But with JavaScript, certainly multiple statements and certainly variables, yes. Insert, update, delete, as far as I know, yes. Is there an alter for UDFs? Alter. Change. That's a good question. Execute function. I don't think there's an alter. So you have to drop and recreate, basically. All right, so that answers my questions. So what does language mean? What does inline mean? These are just ways of specifying what kind of function you're creating. So JavaScript or Nickel. Parameters, yes. Multiple statements, variables. So it looks like with Nickel, you could probably do a CT. With JavaScript, certainly multiple statements. Variables, certainly. Insert, update, delete. Yep, don't see why not. Alter for UDFs, there's not an alter. So there's the questions that I had answered by some very good documentation. I kind of wish I had that when I started on the UDF tutorial, but got by. All right. So I think I'm done talking about windowing functions for now, unless people bring up questions in the future. I'm happy to talk about them. I thought it might be fun to take the rest of the time today and update the old Matt's Twitch bot here. So a couple things just to get started. I thought I would a lot of these bang commands seem to be the way that people go with them in other channels. So I thought it makes sense. A command starts with a bang and has some token, maybe multiple tokens, but we'll keep it simple for now. So you might have one command like a bang help, which I would say we're going to whisper the commands to you. Whisper all these lists of commands. Gamlor, windowing functions rock. Assuming windowing functions mean the same thing in CouchDB as SQLese DBs. Gamlor, I'm going to let that slide for now, but it is not CouchDB. It is Couchbase. They are very different things. CouchDB may have windowing functions, but they certainly don't have a SQL Nickel language. It's okay, Gamlor. Believe me, it's okay. I'm going on 3.5 years as a Couchbase DA, and you would not believe. You probably would believe all the time that mistake is made, all the time. And it's naming things are hard, right? It probably made sense at the time to call the company Couchbase. But, yeah. So maybe I make this bot listen for CouchDB and do an automatic correction. But anyway, yeah, two databases. They have some common lineage, but very different things right now. Okay, what else? All right, so then I thought people often come into the chat. They're maybe 30, 40 minutes into the stream, and they're like, oh, what's this guy working on? So they'll ask the question, and I'm happy to answer that question in the chat, but maybe it would also be a good feature to have just a command to say, okay, bang current project, and then show the URL. Show a URL for something that I'm working on, so you can link to the doc page or link to some website somewhere, just to show you what I'm working on, get more information on it. And then, of course, the corollary to that is I need a command to set the URL of the current project. And this should be only available to me to do that, right? I don't want random people coming in and setting the current project. So I've already done a little bit of this. So let's bring up TwitchBot, because I wasn't sure about certain things, about how whispering would work. And I also refactored the project a little bit. So it's just a console project, and I actually have a version of it running right now, not here, but running right now. As you can see, it's logging messages from Gamlore, from Calvin, from Codebase Alpha, and so on. So I want to keep it doing that. So here I connect to Couchbase, and actually I'm mocking it out because I'm doing some integration testing here. So usually don't use mocks directly in a project, but I wanted to see how whispers would work, and I was having trouble with it, so I mocked it out. I didn't want any of my test messages to be saved to the database. Connect to Twitch. So this is using something called TwitchLib, and it's passing in credentials, my username, and my OAuth key to get a Twitch client. And then my main refactoring here is I've done something that I've worked with in the past, and I think it's fair to call it CQRS, but it is Command Query Pattern, Command Query Object Pattern. And I blogged about this back in 2014 because I was kind of interested at, repository versus command query and what are the benefits and how does it look and things like that. So I did a little experimentation of this. And this is actually one of my most popular blog posts to date still. This is pushing 5 years old, over 5 years old at this point, but it's still a popular blog post. But it's just a way to, instead of having a repository with a bunch of methods in it, to instead have, you kind of split let's say your repository has 5 methods. You kind of split that into 5 objects, 5 command objects or query objects. Command object performs some task. A query object will return some information. So it's kind of like a command would do changes, writes and updates, deletes, whereas a query would do reads. It would do a query or a get, that sort of thing. So I've decided to do this command pattern. I don't know if this is good or not. I don't know if this is going to pay off or anything, but my thought was if people are going to enter commands, maybe a command pattern would make sense for this. All right, then I initialize Twitch, and I start listening to messages here. And all I'm doing in this message here, I've changed this, is to take the message that comes in and instantiate a command with it. And the command could be any number of these 4 different objects. So the default one is going to be store the message, like this, which is what it's doing right now. It's just taking the message and putting it in Couchbase. I've nulled that out for now because I don't want to double store messages. But the other commands is going to look at the message. It's going to say bang help, bang current project, or bang set current project. And it's going to return a command object that does those things. Now, this case statement here, if I end up adding a lot more commands, it might make sense to introduce some reflection, but I don't think we're going to get to that point where that's going to really be necessary. This is pretty cool here, this case var x when. This is some new C# goodness. This is called pattern matching, which a lot of other languages have had better pattern matching. C# is just catching up with that. But it's a switch statement where you can have something a little more advanced in the case than just does it match the string. So for instance, I'm doing is start with the string. Pattern matching is making the rounds in mainstream languages. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly Gamlore. So C# is adding it. I actually did an episode on this, if you go back to my website here, with Eric Potter, I believe. And this is kind of old as well. This is over 2 years old. And so we talked about pattern matching in C#, and I think even since this episode, there's been some additions to improve C#'s pattern matching. But yeah, pattern matching C#, using a really basic version here. Does the string start with bang help? Does the string start with bang current project? So right now, if we go into help, to new up the help, I just pass in the actual message. As far as I know, Java is working towards it too. Yeah, that would make sense. We're at a point now, it's kind of weird that Java is in some ways trying to catch up to C Sharp. There's very few things. I'm far from a Java expert, so don't hurt me, Java people. But there's very few things now that Java has that C Sharp does not, in terms of language features. But yeah, Java is, and the corollary is C Sharp's got a lot of stuff that Java doesn't have yet as far as language features. Not even going to talk about the JVM, stuff like that. That's a whole different thing. But as far as Java as a language, which is why I think maybe people are looking to like things like Scala, which Couchbase just released a Scala SDK alpha version. Anyway, so this is my help command. It just has a chat message as the constructor, which I can then use. And then the command gets executed by my commander object, which is going to pass in a Couchbase bucket and a Twitch client. I don't actually use the bucket in this particular command. I'm just using a Twitch client because all I'm doing is just writing a message out, a whisper, in fact, to whoever typed in bang help. So why don't we fire this up and you can try it out. What's happening? Oh, okay. So the problem here is that I'm running TwitchBot, and it can't. It's trying to overwrite the exes as I'm running them, as I have them locked up. I think the only thing missing in C# sometimes very rarely, is anonymous classes. That's exactly what I'm thinking of again, Laura, anonymous classes. That is a very cool thing that Java has that I don't think C# has yet. You have anonymous objects in C#, and there is some like you have tuples in C#, but you don't quite have something like anonymous classes as far as I can tell yet. And I don't know if they plan to add that or want to add that or working towards it or not. But that's one of the things that I remember working in Android specifically. I was like, wow, this is a really cool thing that Java has that C# doesn't. I'm sure there's probably a few other things as well, but anonymous class is exactly what I was thinking of. We're on the same wavelength, Gambler. We're on the same frequency right now. All right, so what to do? I want to keep logging messages, but I also want to try out this thing. So I think what I'll do is instead of null, we'll just switch this over to store message. And if we miss a few messages, it's not the end of the world. So I'll shut down the old TwitchBot here, and we'll start up my new version of it. Okay, so now what I'd like you to do, Gamlor, or anyone else who's listening in, who would like to volunteer, type bang help right there in the chat. And I'm going to do the same thing. The problem is I can't whisper to myself, so I have to log in as a different Twitch user. So Gamlor just typed it. Did you get a whisper from me? A whisper from me, I think it should come from. Okay, so over here, I've got to go to Twitch. I'm going into LastPass right now. Copying a password. So I've got another account that I have access to on Twitch called SQL++, which is kind of meant to eventually be an official Couchbase channel, like a branded type channel. Okay, current project's not going to do anything, but yes, a whisper arrived. Great, excellent. So I will come in here. So I'm logged in right now as SQL++ in another window. So I'll see myself here, and I'll just type in help. So you can see I already tested this out actually earlier, but I'll just type, yep, got it, help, and there we go. I get a whisper, and there it is. Try these commands. Now, one thing that's weird is I couldn't figure out how to do formatting in this. Like, it's kind of all runs together as one big piece of text, which that may be something I have to deal with. Okay, so since we're here, and look at this, and it even logs out to console. I just whispered help to Gamlar. I just whispered help to SQL++. All right, let's go to current project. So right now it's just an empty class. It doesn't do anything. So we'll just store the message as a field. And yeah, so we're going to store the current project. Have to go to bed. See you another time. All right, Gamlar, have a good night. Thanks for stopping in. And thanks for all the reminiscing and stuff. I appreciate it. It's cool to think about all the DB4 stuff back in the day. Ancient history now, unfortunately. All right. So I'm going to store the current project as a document in the Couchbase bucket. So we'll have a current project document key, and we'll just, I don't know, call it current project. It's probably good enough. Everything else is stored as GUIDs, I think. Where's my, yeah, here it is. So in Twitch chat, all the regular chat messages just store with a GUID. So we'll give this one a special key. And we'll say current project equals new current project class. Oh, current project documents. Okay, and we'll just make this a, doesn't really have to be a public class, I guess. Can we just keep it internal? Or can I make it a private class? Is that going to work? It might work. We'll see. And this is the current project. So, in fact, that's not going to work. So we're going to need this in other commands. Public class, current project info. Okay, so we're going to get current project. So let's do a current project doc equals bucket. Current project result equals bucket dot get. Current project info based on that key, current project document key. Now here's the thing, that document doesn't exist yet. So if it is not successful, then we can just write a message out to the client, send message to the chat message, no, underscore message dot channel. And it was a message that basically a current project was not found. Current project. We can put something funny in here like I haven't set any current project yet. Sorry. And return. Okay. And if there is one, we can actually just I don't know. We'll just store like a just make it a URL. I guess it's probably good enough. So if we do have it, then we'll just write it out, and we'll say client.send message, message.channel, and it'll just be the current project. So current project doc equals current project result dot value, and current project doc dot URL dot toString. Okay, send the message. And maybe a little bit of flavor in there. We could say current project is colon. We don't need a toString if we're going to do that. Alrighty. So I will close this down and start it back up. All right. So if I go in here and I say current project, nothing happens. Why isn't anything happening? All right, so I can stop this madness. Oh, we got an exception. Not central instance of an object. What is that all about? Set a breakpoint here, see what's going on. This is definitely something I should be unit testing. That's one of the things you can do with this command query pattern is unit test individual commands. But I'm just too lazy right now. I am being very negligent. Current project, okay. Yep, that looks good. Oh, it's returning a null. Why is it returning a null? It should return something. Well, there's your null reference exception. Okay, that's interesting. I would expect it to return something, but it's returning a null. So we'll just say if it equals null or it's not successful, show that message. Okay. All right, bring back up my other account. Although I don't need that right now because I'm not whispering, but let's try it. Current project. I haven't set any current project yet, sorry. All right, there we go. That works. Okay, so the next thing is we need to set a current project. And this is going to, yes, okay. So we'll just say message equals chat message. All right, now the first thing we should do is say if client.twitch username not equals, and I could say config.username, then return. So this is basically saying, unless this is me, don't allow the current project to be set, okay? And so the next thing I'll do is I will say, and I kind of have to put this in multiple places now, which is, that's not good. But we can refactor that. So there's the current project key, and say new project info equals new current project info, info.url equals. So what I'm going to assume now is I have this message coming in, client dot, message dot message, and I'm going to remove anything that's set current project, and I'll trim that. So I'm going to assume that anything left in there is a URL or URI. Now, if that, so what I could do is stripped equals this. Just do this trim part here. And I could say URI equals, there's a try parse, I think, right? Try create. I thought there was a try parse. Is there just a parse? No. This looks like a job for Google. C# URI try parse. I could have sworn there was one. There's a URI parse method. There's a try create. Specified base, specified string, and a URI kind. Oh, okay. That's what I want, I think. URI.try create. Stripped. It's a URI kind. Absolute. Yeah, we'll go absolute, and this will be out to the parsed URI. So what I want here is URI This is going to be is URI. This is going to return a Boolean, I assume, out to URI. Yes, Boolean? Yes, okay. So then we can say if it was not a URI, then we'll just say, we'll just put an error message out to Twitch client.send message to the channel that sorry, I couldn't understand that URL. All right, and return. Otherwise, you could probably inline that URI variable out param. Oh, like this. That's a new C# feature as well. Very good, Calvin. Thank you for that. Save some code. All right, a new URI, and I'll just put in the URI here. In fact, I don't probably need this. C# 7.3, somewhere around there. Is there a 7.3? What doesn't it like about this? Oh, it already is parsed, so I don't need to do that. Okay, so now we've got the, and we don't need this either down here. So now I'm just going to save it. Bucket dot, and we'll do a upsert with the key, current project document key, and info. And we could say if result not equals null, I guess, and oh, we do the other way around. We could say result equals null or result dot was not successful. Then we'll just write a message out saying I was unable to store that. Sorry. Else we'll say client dot send message to message dot channel. Okay, got it. What's the problem it's having with the remove on line 22? Typo. I think that's a typo. Oh, what else? Argument is not assignable with parameter type int. Huh? Oh. Remove expects an int. Okay. I didn't mean to use remove. I meant to use replace. Replace old value and just remove that out. That's what I meant to do. Okay. So we're better now. Still says there's a typo. All right. Okay, I got it. And we can make this read only. What is this guy? Oh, it's F Bucheros. I guess you're also a subscriber with a thumbs up. All right. So this seems a little noisy to me because it's kind of doing two things, right? It's doing it's doing authentication here, authorization, parse out the URL from the message, and make sure it's valid. And then this would be store the current project info. So it's doing quite a lot. The authorization, probably we'll leave it in there. We could turn that into, we could wrap commands. That's another cool thing you can do with commands. You can actually wrap it. So we can make this its own command. We could wrap it and do this if authorized command. This part here, we could also wrap that as a command, but that seems not like a command we're going to get a lot of reuse out of. And then this is the actual meat of the command. So it seems like a lot. This would be a lot to write tests against, for instance. But let's give it a try. Oh, it was logging your messages this whole time, Calvin. All right. Okay, so I'm running the bot again. This is the new one. And we'll try this. So we can say current project. So I haven't set any current project yet, sorry, okay? And it's not going to let me set current project. Yahoo.com. Just going to ignore it probably. Oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. Should not have gotten there. Okay. Weird. Again, unit tests would be helpful here. But let's just step through it. Feeling lazy. Got about 18 minutes left in the old stream. Let's try this again. Set current project to Yahoo. Twitch username is Matthew D. Groves. Huh? Oh. That's the username of the... Okay. So I don't want client. Okay, what I want is... message. Yikers. Message dot username. So this would not have been caught in unit test, actually. Because I would have just mocked Twitch username to contain what I expected it to. So, all right. Score 1 for not unit testing, I guess. Yeah, you're trying to hack me, Calvin. How dare you? I had the bot turned off, so I wasn't actually listening. Okay, so we'll set breakpoints just to kind of demonstrate this. But over here, set current project again to yahoo.com. So it's going to say username SQL++. Does not match Matthew D. Groves, so it's going to just return ignoring me. All right? Should do the same thing for you, Calvin. Should ignore you. Now, ever, if I go in as myself, over to my own chat room, twitch.tv/Matthew D. Groves. And I can say set current project Bob Dole. Yeah, it should just be ignoring you. Set current project to, I don't know, what's .NET Bytes.fm? That's still up? Yeah. Set current project to .NET Bytes.fm. And what happened? Okay, we're stepping through here. Calvin, you're messing me up. Matthew D. Groves, so that checks out. So the stripped message is .NET Bytes. And is it a URI? It is, and it parses it correctly. So we don't need to do that. An unauthorized message would be good there, so you know why nothing happened. True, I guess. Would that be a whisper, you think, or just throw it into the channel? I don't know. Current project documents. So, the result's null. Why is the result null? What didn't it store it? That's no good. So the key I want is current project. Hey, Coding Gorilla. How are you? Thank you for the follow. Document not found. What is going on here? This upsert should work. What doesn't it like? Key and value. And it's returning a null. That's the weird thing. It's not returning any sort of error message to tell me why it's returning a null. We're going to stop this chat for now. And because the bucket... Oh, dough. It's returning a null because I'm using the fake bucket. Oh my goodness, I'm so dumb. I am the dumbest person in the world. All right, so all those chat messages have not been stored. They've just been going off into the void because I'm using a mock bucket. I was doing that earlier to test some stuff. I didn't want to actually impact the data being stored. It's all for the stream, Matt. Accidents happen. Yeah, it was an accident. But doesn't mean I'm not dumb. What was that? Okay, I don't know what that was. All right, back here to, yes. So I'm going to set current project to .NET Bytes. I was unable to store that. Again, unable to store. What? What's the problem now? Oh my goodness. Okay, we're going to step through it again. Over here. I wish there was a way I could... What I should do is I should pop out that chat so it's not doing Inception on the screen here. How do I pop this out? Little popski, pop out chat. Okay, there we go. All right, set current project .NET Bytes and go. So username checks out. Is the URI? Yep. All checks out. Okay, all looks good. Upsert. Oh. Out of memory? What? What in the world is there an out of memory for? Is it because, you know, I did put all the stuff in user profile, but why would that cause an out of memory exception? All right, I'm going to delete the user profile bucket. This is all running inside Docker. And Couchbase is very memory intensive, so maybe I needed to figure something out with sizing or something. I don't know. Let's look at the logs here. Query inferencer. Service query exit. Hard out of memory error. No memory currently allocated to this bucket can be easily released. What in the world? So it's 0% resident. That's not a good sign. Let's look at the dashboard here. Yeah, so I think I allocated 4 or 5 gig of RAM for this thing, for Docker image. Huh. So I mean, can I don't know, can I add a document? Delete me. Unexpected server. It doesn't seem to like, something's going wrong here. I've done something wrong with the memory. Hangfire, 512. I mean, these shouldn't have any. These really shouldn't have any impact because they have their own quotas. And if you look at my data, I've got 2 gig assigned for data. Twitch chat is over. Oh wait, let's see. Is the RAM used quota part of it? Twitch chat is over. Is over what? The RAM use. Yeah, what's that about? How is that possible? It's using more RAM than the quota? What if I do a compact on this? That's weird. I mean, I guess I could give it more RAM. But why is there so... There should not be 127 megabytes of stuff in Twitch chat with 1,000 messages. There's no way. That's weird. Can I give it more memory? I have to restart this Docker image or something, which I kind of have to do anyway for the port numbering stuff. Weird. Okay. All right. So let's start it again. Let's do it again. Set current project and .NET Bytes. So down here is where I was having problems. Okay, looks like successful. this time. Okay, got it. There we go. So then I could say current project. I'll say current project is done at bytes. So why don't you try it there, Calvin? I'll actually try it with SQL++ as well. Let's pop this chat out. Yep. Looks like that's working. Current project. Did I type it wrong? What's going on here? Why isn't that working? It just worked for you. Why isn't it? Are we caught somewhere? I'm in debug mode. Let's try this again. What's up, Twitch chatbot? Let's go. Wake up. Current project. Okay. I can do it. I should be able to do this myself as well. Current project. Yep. Seems to be working fine. Can you get another shot there, Calvin? I think I might got it caught up on a breakpoint or something. Coding Gorilla. Hey, thank you, Coding Gorilla, for the help. Okay. Seems to be working fine. And, yeah, looks good now. All right. I don't know what happened with the memory here. Because if you look at these documents, I mean, they're pretty big documents. But, I mean... how much... It's 1,300 bytes for a document. And so if we just extrapolate on that, 1,300 bytes times 1341 documents, we're talking a meg. It's a megabyte of data that's in there. Ish. I mean, even if it's double that, it's 2 megabytes. Why is it saying 128 megabytes? What is going on here? I mean, the only thing I could think of is some weird fragmentation, but I just compacted it. Let's see. Is there analytics? Disk creates, disk updates, disk read. Yeah, here we go. 4.3 total disk size. So what in the world is that overhead? $128 megabytes worth of overhead. There's something in the metadata? No? Is there... is it... The index isn't taking up space, is it? Even if it is. No, there's not even an index in there. The bucket has no indexes. And it's less than 1% that's resident. Something funny going on here. I don't know. I know I've got these background tasks running for Hangfire and Family Photos. Maybe they're just doing something to screw things up, but it seems like these should be pretty isolated from that. Anyway, so that's the chatbot features I wanted to implement today. And so now we can start doing other commands if we want to. It should be relatively easy. We just have to add another case statement here and another command object, and away we go. So I might also want to in the future, maybe this should be a separate object or an attribute or something. You know, I come from a AOP background. I wrote a book on AOP, so this feels like an AOP. Feels like a cross-cutting concern right here. So we could certainly wrap the execute in that. That's kind of have to remember to do that, so I don't know. We'll figure something out. and then parsing URL, and then storing it. This feels like two separate features. So I don't know. We'll figure something out for that. But in the meantime, I think that's good enough for now. All right. So it's about 4 minutes till. We got a lot done today. Thank you, everybody, for stopping in, helping me out. Thanks, Coding Gorilla, for stopping in. Appreciate your help today. And who else? Who else we have? Gamlor. Thanks for showing in, Gamlor. Let's see. Must be owner, must be mod, must be subscriber, etc. Could have different variations. Yeah. It's hard-coded to me. Kind of hard-coded to me right now. But yeah, I could certainly give, like, you're a mod, I could give you the ability to update the project if you wanted to. Or, you know, something like that. Give my mods some special privileges with the bot. So thank you, Gamlor, for stopping in. Thank you for all the DB4O talk and reminiscing on that. That's very cool. All right, so I'll be back on Tuesday afternoon at 1:30 Eastern U.S. time. And I hope to go back to work on the scavenger hunt. Did I say Tuesday? I meant Thursday. Hey, thank you for the follow, AJ2017. Thank you for checking me out, lurking a little bit. Appreciate it. Back on Thursday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. I hope to be working on something with Scavenger Hunt, which I've showed in this stream before. It's actually a piece of code that actually I have put into production to a small extent. So I'm having some issues with the authentication, having some issues with Okta on that. So I got to figure that business out. If I do, then we'll be working on Thursday. If not, I will do something else Thursday. We'll do some more TwitchBot stuff, or I don't know. If you get any ideas, it might be something we can add to the bot. Maybe like if you got ideas for future stream, hit pound idea and then your idea. I don't know. That might be pretty cool. All the stuff's getting stored in the database, which is the best part of it. All right, so in the team we've got Lana Lux, Relevant Jesse, and myself. I feel like I've rated Lana Lux and I've rated Relevant Jesse both very recently. So we could do that again, or we could find someone else who's not on the team and raid them. Any thoughts before we head on over there? We've got a handful of potential raiders here. I do want to point out, if you're a subscriber, make sure to smash Calvin's bada bing bada boom emoji. Whoever we decide to raid. Well, let's just see who else is out there in the science technology. Science technology. Anybody else doing any coding? Lana Lux. We've got Relevant Jesse doing the WinForm stuff. We got some Angular Elixir over here. Let's see, some Unity game development. That could be kind of interesting. There's me, live coding with Matt Groves. Live coding with Yocto Project. It's a Yocto Project.
Ever built a target where it needed package management?
Looks like some Python going on there. Well, I reckon we'll just stick to a teammate then. Go to Lana Lux. Everybody be nice to Lana Lux. Say hi. Hit Calvin's emoji if you're a subscriber. So I'm going to start the raid now. Again, thank you everybody very much for joining me. I got to get to a meeting actually, so I better get a move on here. All right, everyone have a good one.